What's up everybody? Dan here with Dan and Sarah Makers, and for this video here I have got another toilet. So this is a bit different than the last toilet video I did, where it was basically a flapper that was causing a problem where the toilet would run on and on. In this situation we have a toilet that is very, kind of hard to see. There we go. It's quite wobbly, and this was basically told to us by the plumber that came out to the house to actually videotape the sewer line for us. He said that the cast iron flange that this toilet is mounted to is cracked, and basically only one of the bolts is holding on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the toilet. I'm going to see how bad that actually is, and if need be, I am going to replace that cast iron flange and reset this toilet so it's nice and secure. So we're going to take you on a little trip. I'll start out, I'll show you some tools real quick that I'm going to use. There's nothing really that special that I use here, but it might seem like a really complicated project, but it's really not that bad once you see how to do it. So a lot of these tools are really just common tools that you have, almost anybody has. If you do a little bit of mechanicking work, if you do a little bit of hobby stuff, you know, got a shop vac, you got what you need for this. So let's delve into that, and then we'll get started on this here toilet. The tools that I'm going to use, like I said, aren't very complex. I've got a small shop vac. These are relatively inexpensive, maybe $30-ish. I haven't bought one in a long time. But this is a perfect size for sucking the water out of the bowl in the tank on a toilet when you're done flushing it dry. I've got some gloves because we are going to be dealing with the dirty side of the toilet. I've got a cordless drill. I've got a socket set with just a 7/16 socket. Not 100% necessary, but that just makes it a little bit faster for what I'm doing. I've got a small mini hacksaw. Some people call these Tiny Tims. Not quite sure why, but that's kind of just a name that I was raised on with these little hacksaws. I've got a beater screwdriver, and when I say that, I mean this is designed to actually be hit and driven on with a hammer, and even though it is, the tip on this is still broken, and you'll see why. I don't need a nice screwdriver for this. Go into a pawn shop, a Goodwill, a thrift store, something like that, where you can find old, just random junk tools is a great place to find something like that. I've got a small putty knife. Again, you'll see what this is used for. I've got a double-ended but offset ratchet. This is nice for tightening and loosening the bolts for the closet flange down at the bottom. I've got a small crescent wrench. This one is pretty much on the clean side of things, so I don't leave it out when I start getting into the wax ring and the flange itself. I've got a hammer, obviously, and then I usually have a couple different size drill bits. Usually a 1/4 inch is approximately the size you need, but these are right in that range. And then one of the other items that I like to have, and not a lot of people really think about it, is an old cardboard box, because when I have to pick the toilet up and set it off to the side, there's going to be some residual moisture on the bottom. This is nice because it pads the floor so that the porcelain on the bottom of the toilet doesn't scratch up the floor, whether it's tile or linoleum or whatever your flooring actually is. It's a nice pad, it soaks up the water, and you can slide the toilet around pretty easily once it's sitting on the cardboard. So the very first thing we're going to do with any plumbing project, and this actually escapes some people's thought, is we're actually going to turn the water off. And we're going to close the angle stopper, the supply valve down here. If that doesn't work, then we'll go to the main at the house and we'll turn that off. But I've actually, when I was a service plumber, there were actually people that would try to disconnect faucets and toilets and things like that without turning the water off. And once you disconnect the line without the water being shut off, it's very challenging to try and get that tubing reconnected without making a huge mess. So this one appears to be just like a 1/4 turn. I just turned it about a 1/4 turn and it seemed to shut off all the way. And now I'm just going to depress the flush lever, let the toilet flush all the way, and just hold it down and let that whole tank drain down, and basically get as much water all by itself out of the toilet as possible. So, sounds like it's just about done. We'll pull the tank lid off here. We'll look up underneath and see if it's refilling on its own, which it doesn't appear to be doing that. So we should be good there. I'm gonna use my small shop vac, which I have right over here. I'm gonna suck out the tank first, and then I'll suck out the bowl. Set this aside. It's a little dirty in there. So that barely had enough capacity to handle this toilet, which is great. The next step is going to involve disconnecting the supply line down here at the angle stop, and then pulling these porcelain caps or closet bolt covers down here, this little cap. So for this, I'm just going to use a crescent wrench. This feels like it's attached to a PEX supply line because it's wiggling all over. Right, a little bit of water will usually come out of there, but not too much. Use the putty knife, get up under this closet bolt cap or porcelain cap. Sometimes these are real easy to get off, other times they're a lot more challenging. These actually feel like they might be pretty well on there. Or really well on there. Oh, these screw on. I've never seen that style before. Kind of odd. So I'll do both sides. Got my little 7/16 wrench. We'll see if it gets onto the nuts down here because they're a little bit recessed. It looks like it is. Just barely fitting down in there. All right. We'll get the other side here, which is even more recessed, so we'll use our deep socket. So one thing I like to do with all this stuff here, the closet bolts and the nuts and everything, I like to put it in the tank lid when it's upside down. It's just a nice spot to store those so they don't get lost or knocked out of the way. And then the next trick, like I said, is the cardboard, but I'm gonna pull the camera back and show you how the best way that I found with pulling hundreds of toilets over the past is to actually pick one of these things up and move it safely and not hurt yourself and potentially break the toilet. We're gonna start out with a little freehand here. I've set the cardboard box flattened out right in front of the toilet. I've got the toilet there. And we'll set ourselves down here. I'm gonna straddle the toilet and grab it and just walk straight back after I pick straight up. So I just grab it right in front of the tank, straight up, waddle on back, straight down. And that's probably your best bet for moving a toilet. Like I said, we're on a cardboard, piece of cardboard, which slips around real nice. And just drag that off to the side. So, as we can see here, a little interesting situation. This might be a little bit more challenging than I may have thought, but we'll see here. So we've got the wax ring here, and then down there, it doesn't look like your standard cast iron flange. There's some red stuff, so I'm wondering if maybe somebody got creative and installed one of those cutesy little no wax, no fancy anything extension something here. So I'm gonna use a grocery bag, a little putty knife. I'm gonna clean this wax ring off and we're gonna find out what's going on so that we can get this fixed.